Yurka, monster from Russia. To what really happened there? Right after this question, my former classmate's face changed. My longtime friend and classmate and I are sitting at the table, eating and having a drink. We hadn't seen each other in years, and finally, as they say, we met again. He recently moved from his hole closer to civilization, and by the way, settled not far from me. We ran into each other by chance at a store. Without much thought, we bought a bottle of good cognac, a couple of chocolate bars, and headed to my place for tea. During a warm conversation, I learned a lot about my school friend and he learned a lot about me. We laughed, reminisced about the old days, our classmates, discussing who's where now, what they're doing, and so on, just as usual. Many, of course, stayed in the village where we spent our youth. "What about Alexei?" I asked with a smile. "Puntov, you mean?" "Yeah, him. He passed away a couple of months ago." He sighed as he answered, "You're kidding. How come?" There's a story behind it that had the whole village buzzing. Sergei's face changed dramatically. The cheerful man sitting across from me seemed to vanish. It looked like he remembered something he didn't want to. He pulled out a cigarette, his hand trembling as he lit it. "That's why I moved here, away from that hole where I wasted half my life. What happened there is something no one should ever see or hear about," he said, exhaling bitter smoke and starting his story. "I'll say right away, I couldn't disbelieve him. Although at first I thought Sergei might have had too much to drink and started talking nonsense. Anyway, here's his story in his words. Back then, I was still working, let's say, in law enforcement. After graduating from the police academy, they sent me back to the village. They appointed me as the local officer, gave me a territory, an office, all the formalities. Why they needed me there, I didn't figure out in my 10 years of work, honestly. But it was fine for me. Pension credits were accumulating. They paid me well enough to sit in the office and play games. Occasionally there were incidents, drunken brawls, stolen livestock. But what could really happen in such a hole, tell me? When they installed a cell tower, it was the event of the century. People talked about it for a month. So I spent almost 10 years in that office. In a couple of months, it would have been my anniversary. Damn it. The village was slowly dying, with more and more empty houses. The youth hurried to leave that cesspit, seeking a better life elsewhere, and I had to leave too. After what we all encountered there, those who stayed, why did you stay so long? I couldn't hold back because it was my job. I begged my superiors to transfer me elsewhere. But my attempts, unfortunately, were unsuccessful. Well, listen further, Sergius said, stubbing out his cigarette. One night, I stayed late at the station. I was watching a movie and dozed off. Can you imagine? When I opened my eyes, it was pitch black outside. So I got up and started heading home. It was cold that night. I was walking down the street, shivering like a dog, still half asleep. Then, I noticed the gate to old Maria's yard was open. You probably don't even remember her. At first, I thought of just walking by, but as I passed her fence, I decided to check if everything was all right. The first thing that caught my eye was the wide open door of her house and a whining dog hiding in its kennel. I quickly headed to the house. "Maria Stepanovna, are you here? Is everything all right?" No response. I called out again, but still nothing. Eventually, I decided to go inside. Kitchen, first room, second room. No one. Strange, I thought. I went to the garden, thinking she might have gone to the outdoor toilet, but no one was there either. Not in the chicken coop, nowhere. It was as if she vanished into thin air. The lights were on in the house, and her bed was still warm. It seemed odd, but I decided not to raise an alarm, thinking she might have gone to someone's place for medicine or something, forgetting to close the door. These things happen, so I went home. The next morning, nothing had changed. On my way to work, I saw the same wide-open gate and door. The old lady was missing. I spent half the day questioning the villagers, but no one had seen or heard anything. It was as if she truly vanished into thin air. We had to seal the house and call in a team from the city. They arrived early the next morning. I told them everything as it was happening. Someone disappeared, no signs of forced entry, and the gate and doors were left open. They spent some time at the house, then called in emergency services. It was necessary to search for the woman. A few local volunteers joined in, including me. We searched the entire village and the surrounding forest until nightfall. There weren't enough people, but who had come to this godforsaken place for a missing old lady? Thankfully, we had dogs with us. Around 2 in the morning, they picked up the scent. Sergei leaned closer to me and whispered. The old woman was gutted like livestock and impaled on a branch in the middle of the field in a daze. I swear on the cross, I even have pictures saved. I'll show them to you later. A pool of blood under the tree almost made me throw up. And if that were all, maybe it wouldn't have been so bad. But the old woman was almost at the very top of the tree. We stood under that tree, staring up in silence for probably 20 minutes, dumbfounded by what we saw. Even the dogs, after pacing around a bit, lay down next to us and whimpered softly. By the way, she was carried far from the village, 5 kilometers at least, if not more. So we decided to chop down the tree. There was no other way to bring the body down. It needed to be buried properly. The body was mutilated beyond recognition. Ribs torn out and twisted outward, exposing her organs, now clotted with dried blood. Her head hung by a shred of skin and seemed like it might fall off at any moment. I had never seen anything like it during my entire service. But at that moment, one question haunted me. Who could have done this? Whoever it was must have been inhumanly strong to lift the old woman, who wasn't exactly light, to the very top of a 35-meter tree. We managed to get Maria down with great difficulty and buried her the next day in a closed casket. For the first time in my career, I had no idea what to do. There wasn't a single clue, not a shred of evidence. And most importantly, I couldn't fathom who or what was capable of hoisting a 90-kilogram body to the top of a tree. But things only got worse. Just a few days later, the same thing happened again. Valery, a man who lived on Troyd Street, went missing. I can't recall his middle name now, but it was the same scenario. His gate and door wide open, no traces of a struggle, nothing. We began another search, combing through the woods, but we didn't find him that day. He vanished without a trace. That's when I started to believe something unnatural was happening. I mean, how else could the old woman end up in the tree? It just didn't make sense. 3 days later, Valaire's body was finally found. It was already frozen and lying in the middle of a field near a forested area. The body was just as mutilated, completely unrecognizable. What's more, it was found bent over, crouched in a bizarre position among the wheat. After that second incident, genuine fear set in. People were disappearing without a trace, only to be found dead, horrifically mutilated. At first, I thought we were dealing with some kind of maniac or serial killer operating in our area. But every time I remembered the old woman in the tree, that theory just didn't hold up. That evening, a group of local men, armed with whatever they could find, pitchforks, axes, flashlights, decided to hunt for the presumed killer. Soon after it lapsed into night, the rain started falling with life-killing frequency. It was both comical and terrifying at the same time. A band of guys wandering the area with flashlights and makeshift weapons, looking for God knows what. Naturally, I joined them. After all, I'm a police officer, damn it. First, we searched the entire village, but found nothing. Thence we turned toward the fields and eventually reached the forest. After scouring the area, we were about to call it a night, but then someone's flashlight beam landed on something moving in the field. I swear to God there was something or someone out there. "Guys, look over there," someone shouted. I turned my head, and about 5 meters away from us, very close, you could hear movement. In the dead silence of the night, it was clear as day. We all stared in that direction, frozen. Suddenly, a bald head emerged from the wheat, and a few seconds later, something resembling a human form slowly rose into the beam of the flashlight. Sergei, noticeably shaken, lit another cigarette with trembling hands. "What do you mean, resembling a human?" I asked. "I mean, it wasn't human," he whispered, as if afraid someone might overhear. It stood on 2 legs, but it was hunched over. Its cheekbones were sharply defined. The gaping jaw reveals jagged teeth and sharp fangs, dripping with thick saliva. Its eyes glowed yellow, without pupils, but its body looked human. I don't know how we didn't notice it earlier while we were searching. Then things started happening that defied all logic. Our staring contest didn't last long. The creature let out a blood-curdling scream, loud enough to freeze your blood. The sound echoed for miles. Then it charged at us at an inhuman speed. The thing leaped at Petrovich, and his flashlight went out as he collapsed to the ground, choking on his own blood. I can still hear that sound vividly. After that, our ragtag group scattered in every direction. I ran too, wherever my legs would take me. But I didn't get far. It was pitch black, and without the others' flashlights, I couldn't see a thing. I turned and bolted into the forest, but didn't see a tree directly in front of me. I crashed into it at full speed and fell flat on my back under the tree. My head was pounding, and my vision was doubling, but even in that state, I saw the creature chasing me. It was running on all 4s, effortlessly leaping over fallen branches and obstacles. At that moment, sitting under the tree, I resigned myself to death. I honestly thought that was the end of Sergei, the district officer. The creature pounced on me about 20 seconds later, grabbing me with its hands. It tried to sink its teeth into my neck, but I fought back with every ounce of strength I had. It tried to shove it off me, but it was insanely strong. Growling in frustration, it eventually bit into my shoulder instead. The pain was excruciating. I screamed uncontrollably. I don't know how I managed it. Maybe it was the adrenaline, but somehow I kicked the thing off me and finally pulled my service weapon and pressed the trigger. Following me, a loud bang echoed, leaving my ears ringing. The creature immediately leapt back, letting out a piercing shriek. I fired again, but missed. Before I could blink, the smoke from the shot dispersed, and it was gone. The last thing I noticed was the bushes rustling nearby. I stayed under the same tree for a while, still unable to believe what had happened. My shoulder throbbed and bled profusely. Tearing off a piece of my shirt, I tried to bandage it, which helped a bit. Finally, gathering my thoughts, I got to my feet and headed home as quickly as possible, terrified I might encounter that thing again. Even as he recounted this, chills ran down my spine. After lighting the cigarette he'd been holding, he continued. I returned to the village deep into the night, barely making it out of that damned thicket. I really wanted to look into the eyes of everyone who'd so eagerly organized the search for the supposed maniac. Those same people who scattered like rats, leaving me alone. But that's beside the point. Listen up. I got to the station, changed clothes, properly bandaged my shoulder, and went home. Of course, after what I'd been through in the field, sleep was out of the question. I sat in the kitchen for hours, sipping coffee and trying to find any information about the creature I'd encountered. With trembling hands, I typed its description into Google's search bar. But all I found were made-up horror stories. The only somewhat similar creature I came across was described in a Slavic legend. According to it, Yurka is a malevolent god creature from Slavic mythology. The ancient Slavs considered suicide a grave sin, and a person who took their own life was doomed to wander the night as an Yurka, killing people and draining their blood in an attempt to replenish their own life force. Its eyes glow in the dark, and though it resembles a human, its body is disfigured by ulcers and corpse-like blemishes. This malevolent spirit operates only at night, moving swiftly and silently, often stalking its victims for extended periods. That's exactly what I saw. But the most important detail? Never look at it, never turn around. That's precisely what it waits for. Person freezes in fear, and then it does whatever it wants. It can even speak to its victim and confuse them. Usually it resides in fields, but in rare cases it can invade human dwellings. After reading this late that night, I nearly lost my mind. Surely people didn't come up with this for no reason. Some must have encountered it, just as I had. I sat in the kitchen until dawn, unable to close my eyes. I only managed to nap for a few hours at work the next day. That night, though, was the final straw, forcing me to pack up and leave that place as far behind as I could. What happened that night? I asked, intrigued. Middle of the night, there's a knock at my window, he said. At first, I thought I was dreaming, but as I opened my eyes, I realized it was real. A light knock, followed by quick footsteps outside, and then another knock at a different window. By then, I already suspected who it was, and Alex's voice outside broke my train of thought. "Hey, where are you? Open up." Relieved, I thought, thank God it's just him. I got up, approached the window, and glanced outside. "Where are you? Couldn't you just call? You have a phone," I muttered. I didn't see him outside, though his voice now came from the veranda. Still half asleep, I trudged to the veranda and almost opened the door until I caught sight of something familiar knocking on the window. A hand. Everything inside me froze, as if I'd been clamped in a massive vice. "What are you doing? Open up, will you?" came Alex's voice again. But standing outside the door was that creature. "How could that be?" I asked. "I swear on everything holy, and may everyone spit in my face if I'm lying." That thing was standing there, mimicking Alex's voice. I'm telling you, it was eerie. Everything in that article matched perfectly. And it also explained how to fend it off, what it fears most. "What is it?" I asked, captivated. "Fire. The fire is its greatest fear." I rushed to the kitchen. All the while kept knocking on the window, trying to persuade me to let it in. When that didn't work, it got more aggressive, pounding harder on the windows and slamming the door so hard the house shook. It growled at me in its real voice, occasionally peering into the windows. I knew I couldn't look at it. That's what it was waiting for. With these thoughts in mind, I quickly fashioned a makeshift torch in the kitchen. Wrapping an old t-shirt around a mop handle, I doused it in solvent and struck a match. The creature outside was losing its mind by then, banging on the door and muttering incoherently. Sometimes it even peeked through the windows. I lit the torch, ran to the window, flung it open, and hurled the flaming mop at the creature. And saw the fire and bolted immediately, scaling the garden fence and vanishing into the night. The next day, I had no choice but to call my superiors and request a transfer. I told them that if they didn't move me, I'd submit my resignation. They denied my transfer request, so I handed in my resignation instead. "Do you regret it?" I asked. "Not one bit," he replied. "Thank God everything's calm in the city now. And, I called my neighbor in the village after I moved. He told me his dog often goes crazy at night, barking and howling. Once, he even saw something wandering around my yard, knocking on my windows. It's terrifying." No kidding. I sold the house for peanuts, but at least I got rid of it. Oh, and Alex, he was the third victim. Right after we encountered it in the field, that's what it was doing. "What a story," I said, shaking my head. "Yeah," he replied, lighting another cigarette. "All right, let's have one more drink and I'll head home. It's getting late." Smash that like button if you got scared, and leave a comment telling us which moment gave you chills. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're not afraid. Choose one of the two videos on the screen to test your nerves. Boo!